You know, so one of my favorite things to do on these clear lakes, you know, we're at Table Rock right now. It's spring of the year. You can see the trees are just starting to bud. This lake has pretty clear water to it. And if you can find where those fish just come up, boy, a swim bait is a great way to catch them. I mean, there's lots of ways to catch fish, you know, in the spring, right in this, it's late pre-spawn. I mean, some of these fish are coming up and actually starting to bed, but throwing a swim bait's a good way to find fish quickly and to catch them and to catch big ones. So let's give it a try. So what I try to do is you know, pick banks that I think are gonna be good banks for the fish to move up on. You know, this is a kind of a flatter gravel point. It's got some chunk rock to it. And the other key thing here is we've got a little wind. You know, having the wind push it in there, it cuts down a little bit on the light penetration in the water, and it makes those fish more susceptible to a moving bait like this on a swim bait. You know, you got about 5 foot of clarity right now, so I know that I can keep my boat like this in, you know, 12, 13 foot of water. I'm going to cast up there, have that bait land up there in 4 or 5, and I'm just fishing it through that whole zone. So I'm very efficient this way, covering a lot of that right depth zone where these fish should be pulling up to stage at. You know, so a question I get asked a lot, because I mean, this is the same kind of water that I'd be fishing a jerkbait into, and I love fishing jerkbaits, but typically for me, this is the next transition in that seasonal movement, where, you know, when the water's cold and those fish are definitely in that pre-spawn mode, a jerkbait is hard to beat. You know, I mean, the water's in the you know, gets up to 50, up to mid 55, things like that. Now as that water starts to warm a little higher and these fish start scattering out and they're thinking about spawning, that's when this swim bait really becomes more effective than that jerk bait. You know, it's just, you just got to figure out if, you know, if they're on the points or if they're halfway down on the sides going into the pockets, or you know, if they're on rock transitions, different things. But this is a good way to cover a lot of water pretty quickly. So the biggest thing about the, you know, swim baiting really any time of the year is really that depth control. So what I'm fishing right here is, again, this is a Strike King rage tail swimmer right here. I've got it just on a 1/4 ounce. You know, it's one of our shaky heads, a ball head, and I've got it on 12-pound fluorocarbon. So this 1/4 ounce head with 12-pound line on a setup like this. This is a, you know, it's a 7.5 foot Quantum Exo Tour rod. It's a medium heavy action. It's got a nice tip to it. I like a long rod like this so I can make a long cast. But more importantly, a lot of times when those fish bite you, they'll come at you. So having a long rod that you can pick up a lot of line is kind of critical. But with this setup here, you know, I've got this Tour MG reel. It's a nice slower gear ratio reel. I'm not overwinding it. It's helping keep that bait down in the water column. And you know, I'm gonna keep it in that zone. So the depth control is really, really critical. If I want the bait to run deeper, you know, you say, well, hey, just use a heavier head, but really that's not what you want to do. You want to have that nice, slow swimming action. So I like to use my line size to dictate the depth that bait's going to run a lot. So if I'm going to, you know, try to keep that bait deeper in the water column, I may go down to 8 or 10 pound test fluorocarbon. That'll, you know, that'll keep it running deeper in the water column with the same size head. If I want it to run a little shallower, you know, say I'm fishing a lake and I'm trying to keep it above the grass or something like that, I may go up to 14 or even 17 pound line just to kind of help keep that bait higher in the column in that situation. So I really use that line size to determine, you know, the depth that bait's going to run, even at that same speed. So we'll let the fish kind of tell us where we're at. I'm seeing a lot of bait on the graph though. You know, we got the wind pushing in here. It should be good. One of these points is going to have them on it. I just got to find on this lake right here the right type of bottom contour or bottom consistency that they're looking for. You know, whether it's gravel or chunk rock or a transition between the two. So, well, there's one. He got it. A little bitty one. Well, that's a start.